Here's a Wayne summer story for you going back to 1965. We had a well in front of our house. Many of you who remember the old Ryerson house at 251 Alps Road, remember there was a well with a structure built around it right out by the street. And that well was dug by my great-grandfather, William Ryerson, and we kept it for years. In fact, when I was a little kid, it was still our main source of water. And we would draw water from that and have two pails in our little entryway with dippers there where you could go in and get water. And if you needed water for a bath, you'd get a couple buckets full and put them in a big pan or pot and heat it on the kitchen stove and then take a bath. But in the early 50s, we got what was called city water, and the end of using the well for our total use came about. But the well stayed there. And a lot of people liked it. I remember the Wayne Township Road Department on their way back from grading roads, because a lot of the town roads back then were dirt. They'd stop and all the guys would get out and get a drink of water there. Our school bus driver, we got a guy named Roy. Many of you may have known Roy for highway transport. He'd stop, and I thought it was cool. He'd get out of the bus would be parked in front of the house, and he'd be there drinking water. And the way we did it is we had this metal measuring cup on a chain, and everybody used the same cup. I have people now, when I tell them that, they look at me and say, isn't that unsanitary? And I don't know. I guess it is. We didn't come down with anything, but we used that cup. And so we move ahead a couple years to the mid-60s, and it's a hot, steamy July or August night. I mean, really humid. And we had gone up to Haskell to visit my father's mother, my other grandmother, and she wasn't doing that well at that time. So we were up there, and we came back on this steamy night. It's dark. You can hear the bugs outside. And I said, I really would like to have a nice cold drink of well water. And I went out and dropped the bucket down and brought it up and had the cup there, and I took a drink. And I thought, wow, something's wrong here. This is bitter tasting. I've never tasted well water like this anymore. It didn't have that freshness to it. What's going on here? And I took another sip. No, this isn't good. So I went back in the house and got a flashlight and went out and looked down the well. And lo and behold, what do I see but a dead cat floating in the well? Can you believe it? A dead cat. How did a dead cat wind up in the well? Did he fall in? Did somebody throw him in? I don't know how it got there, but it certainly made the water taste a little weird. My wife once said to me, did you go to the hospital or check with a doctor after drinking it? No, I just kind of rinsed my mouth out and went to bed that night. We didn't think about that stuff. The next morning, my uncle and I fabricated a basket and a big long pole, dropped the basket down and fished the cat out of the well. And that weekend, my cousin had a sump pump and dropped that down there and tried to pump the well out and wash down the walls to get all the hair off it. And within 2 or 3 weeks, we were back to drinking water. My father used it all that time. He didn't know. He would crank water up because we didn't have an outside water spigot. He'd crank that water up and put it in a watering can and water the flowers in front of the house. And apparently the plants didn't have any objection to whatever the dead cat stuff was that was in the water. But that's a reflection back on what life was like in the summer in the mid-60s.